This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. Catch every moment of your team's playoff push with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. You'll get amazing features like multi-view, and right now, it's only $49 for the rest of the NFL regular season. So give yourself the ultimate gift this holiday season. Get NFL Sunday Ticket for $49. Sign up now at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
So I hit go live and realized I have no intro. So this is the intro you're going to get. If you are watching live, please feel free to comment today. You will notice it says on the Shane page, but there is no Shane here. Today we are on the page only. I was trying to think before I hit record. I reckon I've done about 200 podcasts in my life. I have never hosted. I've never clicked go live. I have no idea what I'm doing. All the settings look weird to me. This is not what I do. Shane is traveling. So it is the Christmas period. So everything's a bit weird over Christmas, isn't it? So Shane is traveling today. He's done a few solo shows this year and kept things rolling. So I am going to go solo today. If you are watching and you could comment to let me know that you can hear me, that would be lovely. I'm going to try my best to get through this. Maybe it will never get posted. Maybe it'll be that bad and I have no idea what I'm doing, that Shane won't even post it. And there'll be the few of you watching along here, will be the only people that ever hear this show. Right. I think I figured out how to share my screen as well. I think I know what I'm doing. Great comment. Thank you. Everything is working, my man, GGN10, who I believe was one of them in the Discord who commented saying this will be a roller coaster. It will be a roller coaster. I'm also ill, so I've got green tea to try and protect my voice. So do you know what you really want when you're ill and when you can't speak very well? It's a solo show. So I'm going to keep the format the same. I did wonder about doing something a little bit different. This will be very interactive. So if you have any questions, this is a great stream to ask me whatever the hell you want, because there's no way I'm going to go as long as normal. So I'm going to try and stick to the format. When Shane goes solo, he goes a little bit radical and does what he wants. But I'm going to try and stick to the format, mainly because I have no idea what the hell I would do if I did not stick to the format. So the Eagles narrowly lost to the Commanders. I can never say Commanders, man. I just wrote my 2 articles bleeding green. I say Washington. Who the hell were the Commanders? It's a stupid name for a team. I normally just call them Washington. It was a bit of a weird game. It was one of the weirdest games I've ever had to analyze, especially on defense. I think I'll start with the offense this week. And the first thing I've got to check is I need to check that you guys can see any film that I share, and I am praying that this works. And if you've got any questions about what we're doing here, how we do things, you can tell I'm not a host, so I haven't told you to do the usual. Please follow along, support the show, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? It's Christmas. If you're here watching on Christmas Eve, then shout out to you guys. I'm going to get through this, and I've got quite a lot I want to say this week, actually. So I didn't want to not do the show because I think there's a lot of good stuff to get to. I'm going to start where I know. I'm going to start my bread and butter, which is the Eagles' run game. And I've called this point run good, run bad, because the Eagles' run game was exceptional for a quarter. Everything was about as good as it could possibly go. And then it got bad really quickly. I'm going to talk about a couple of reasons why. So I'm going to start off. I need the lovely people in the chat to let me know if they can see the screen that I am showing now. If everything is working now, you should see my Twitter thread up on the screen. And we're going to start with the first Saquon Barkley run of the game. So I'm just going to hold fire here for 2 seconds. If some of you legends can let me know. I believe it is working, which I'm actually quite surprised about. I've managed to get this all going. I've never, ever used StreamYard to launch it. Yes, comments are coming in. Thank you. This is cool. The power's gone to my head already because everyone can see my screen. I have never done any of this stuff. So the Eagles run game was absolutely buzzing early on. Like, the Washington Commanders had no idea how to stop the Eagles run game. Secondary players were confused with who was keeping it between Hurts and Saquon. The Eagles used this split flow motion that I'm going to put on the screen now. Great comment from Matthew that I will. Now, Matt, you're going to be the first testing. There we go. I hit show and the comment shows. Either this thing is really easy or I'm very tech savvy. I think the system might just be easy. So Matt comments that Calcaterra's blocks aren't working, but my screen is. And yeah, we will get to that later, Matt. Do not worry. So first play of the game, the Eagles come out. And they are in 12 personnel here, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about later. AJ Brown is lined up as sort of like a H-back, and he runs a split flow motion across the screen. I'm going to use my mouse, by the way. I'm not doing what Shane does with his fancy clicking thing and drawing things on the board. If I ever do this again, maybe. But for today, I'm going to use the good old-fashioned mouse. So AJ Brown comes across the split flow. Jalen Hurts fakes as if he's rolling out to the right as well. And if you watch some of the Washington secondary, especially the back left here, they have no idea what is going on. Devontae Smith makes a brilliant down block, and Mailata kicks out the defensive end here. And the hole for Saquon Barkley is just ridiculous. And you can see how perfectly it works there. I think Devontae Smith's block is really, really good as well. I talk about Hurts' mobility a lot being a +1, and this is what I'm referring to. This secondary player here has absolutely no idea what is going on. He's worried about Hurts. He's worried about AJ Brown coming across the formation, and he doesn't actually realize that Saquon has hit the hole until he's gone straight through. So early on, everything was going about as well as you possibly could for the Eagles. They were running the ball very, very well. I wanted to highlight this play because we talk a lot about the Eagles' offensive line being great, and I think Saquon's better than people give him credit from a vision point of view. The Eagles are running duo here. Duo is 2 double teams at the point of attack, so Kellen Moore's special. And just look how well Saquon Barkley reads this out for those of you watching. First thing you want to do as a running back, you want to get to the line of scrimmage really quickly. You don't want to take slow steps. You need to read this quickly, and that start there is brilliant. It's what we call presses the line. He presses the line exceptionally well. It looks like there might be a little gap for him here, but he realizes that this defensive back is coming into that gap there. He also realizes that the way they have moved, there's a gap that's going to open up between Dickerson here. And rather than running straight into his offensive line, he reads it really, really well and then cuts through to the left. The only surprise about this one, honestly, is that he doesn't break the tackle and score on this play. Everything was going well. Like, I thought the Eagles running game came out and Washington couldn't stop it. The offensive line couldn't stop it. And even when Jalen Hurts went out, we obviously scored the really, really long touchdown, which I'll get on the screen now. This is counter. Anyone that's watched this show for a while knows I talk about counter a lot. The beautiful thing about gap scheme is it relies less on a QB being mobile. So counter is just good old-fashioned gap scheme from pistol. On this play, I believe they're pulling Mekhi Becton, who's doing his lovely hand slap here, and they're pulling CJ Uzomah. The Eagles' gap scheme runs have just been so good over the past 6 weeks or so, and I'm not surprised they had success here. You will very rarely see a 60-plus yard touchdown in the NFL where a running back is not touched. That kind of stuff just doesn't really happen. So you can see here, it is as well blocked as you will ever see a play. And I mean that. If you just look at all the offensive linemen here, the thing about gap scheme is a little bit like the network, I guess, the pin pull, where you get the guys that are running in one direction pulling, therefore the others are like pinning or have these down blocks going on. And you can see Dickerson, Mailata, even Calcaterra there, to be fair to him, and AJ Brown. They block this so well. Comment coming from Twitter from Hood Up, saying Saquon's patience and vision is amazing. Yeah, big time agree. He's not just a good athlete. He's an exceptional athlete combined with a really good running back. And that's it, really. He's gone. CJ Uzomah has no one to block until the quarterback, and Saquon's so quick that when he gets into the open field, no one's catching him. So the Eagles' run game was absolutely humming. The Eagles were basically going to win this game through running the ball alone. And then it all went downhill very fast. And the rest of the game, Barkley was routinely hitting the backfield. It felt like nothing the Eagles were trying was working. And I'm going to go back to GGN10's comment a second ago. He said, felt like Calcaterra cost at least 5 plus runs. And yeah, it's been the talk, I think, this week is, why the hell did the Eagles stick in so much 12 personnel? And the answer is, I don't know why they did. But the Eagles obviously came into this game wanting to stick in 12. And it didn't work because basically what was happening is the Washington defensive ends were just crashing down on every single running play because they didn't have to respect the mobility of Pickett. Now, you can run like backside RPOs, backside bubble screens and stuff to try and hold that edge defender, but Eagles didn't really do any of that. And as the game went on, I think in the second quarter, Washington's edge defenders were actually playing quite conservatively. And then by the third and fourth, they had no care in the world. They were going straight for the running back every single time. And Eagles tight ends really, really struggled. And I think maybe too much has been made. Calcaterra and Uzama were not the reason why the entire running game struggled, but they weren't a reason why it was good. Let's put it that way. There was a lot of trouble with both of their performances blocking. So I'll give you one example here. Calcaterra, to be fair, isn't in a huge... he doesn't really impact the play massively. But Uzama completely fouls to get to the second level. He whiffs on the block badly. Never a good sign when one of your blockers is on the floor. And if you look on the top right hand of the screen as well, Calcaterra is trying to get to defensive back, and the defensive back just walks through him easily. Again, on this play, they're not the reason why it doesn't work, but they're not exactly helping out the situation. The other thing this does when you're in 12 personnel on a play like this, and you can see it quite nicely from this, is look at that bubble of Washington defenders. 4 men on the line, 3 right behind them, safety coming right up. This is what we talk about, like playing the run. They had no respect for the passing game. You'll notice at the back, right at the top of the screen, a single high safety. Normally when teams have a single high safety against Eagles, they throw the ball. But in this game, they were trying to run it for obvious reasons because Kenny Pickett was at quarterback. And long story short, they just couldn't get anything going. Like they really, really struggled to get anything going on the day. It wasn't just the tight ends, though, as I've mentioned. In general, I just didn't think the running game worked. And I think that they were too... I guess that I would say it looked like to me that they called the same running game that they would have done if Jalen Hurts was there. They didn't really change what they were doing. So this is one example that was blown up. Again, a couple of problems here you can spot. Firstly, Washington, they got 5 men on the line of scrimmage, and the Eagles are actually in 11 personnel here. So even when they went to 11, Washington had 5 men on the line of scrimmage, which you don't see that often. The other thing is here, when the Eagles do go 11 personnel, this edge defender here on the left-hand side of Calcaterra, he is normally responsible for crashing at the backside, but also he's going to be responsible for the QB if the QB rolls out. So you see Kenny Pickett here does the fake handoff type thing that every quarterback does, what we call the read. And at the mesh point, there's no way this ball should be being handed off. Like, he can see this defensive end is crashing downhill immediately. Now, I do get the argument that there is a defensive back. So if he does hand it off, if he does keep it, he might not work anyway. But that's where you bring in the RPO. That's where you have to the left here, like a bubble screen that Pickett can just simply throw very quickly. But Eagles didn't have those options. The options were not there. So they ended up running directly into the edge defender. Saquon actually makes him miss, but Calcaterra doesn't even get a hand on him. He doesn't even give them a chance. So the running game was not all bad. There were some good things in the running game, but there were also quite a few negatives this week. I think if Jalen Hurts was healthy, I've said this a few times, but I think the Eagles would have battered them, basically. I don't think they had an idea how to stop the Eagles' offense early on. Got a comment coming in from Matt saying too many variables to meaningfully place blame, which is a hell of a fancy way of saying what I've been saying, so thank you. Without Hurts as an extra runner, this makes crashing easier, tight end blocking worse. Yep, less confidence in Pickett means stacking the box. Yep, it makes it harder for everybody. Couldn't agree more. I like the way you said that to start. Too many variables to place blame, which brings me actually to my second point. I'm going to talk about Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett was not to blame for the Eagles' loss this week. Kenny Pickett was not great. Kenny Pickett is not a great quarterback in general. He is not a disaster. He was not a train wreck. He was not... Remember when we watched the Cowboys-Eagles a few weeks ago and Cooper Rush was unplayable. And then they put in Trey Lance and it was unplayable. Kenny Pickett was not that level of unplayable. He was perfectly adequate when he got the ball on time. He had some good throws in rhythm. I'll show you one just to prove that I'm not going to just talk badly about Kenny Pickett. The Eagles have run this concept quite a lot of late, or a similar variation of this concept, where they run basically Devontae Smith on an out and Saquon Barkley on an in, or some variable of the concept. They run it here on the goal line for AJ Brown's touchdown. They motion Saquon Barkley out to the left, which gives Pickett a nice idea that they are in man coverage on the right-hand side here. There are literally 2 defensive backs staring a yard away from the receivers in very obvious press man positions and no safety at all in the backfield behind. So Kenny Pickett hits his back foot, bang, really nice rhythm. The second he hits that foot, the ball's coming out. And perfectly on time, really easy touchdown for the Eagles. That is where Kenny Pickett is good. Kenny Pickett, when he reads the game well, I think when he makes quick decisions, when he hits his back foot, gets the ball out on time, he is normally successful. Kenny Pickett's problem is that Kenny Pickett thinks he's Patrick Mahomes, and I don't really understand why he is so quick to make a play out of structure. I'll give you a couple of negative Pickett plays. I'll start with the interception. My problem I have with the interception actually is a little bit more about the Eagles' offense in general. If Shane was here, he would be moaning a lot right now about the Eagles running these quick hitches, basically the Eagles' quick game. So the Eagles here are going to run a flat route with, I believe it's Grant Calcaterra, and a little hitch with AJ Brown, which means that Frankie Louvu, number 4, is who Kenny Pickett is reading. If Louvu takes the flat, you throw the hitch. If Louvu takes the hitch, you throw the flat. There's no motion here. There's no confusing. Like, essentially, the Eagles basically run this concept a lot. And I think that Washington knew what was going on here. So Frankie Louvu basically does a fantastic job of baiting Kenny Pickett here. So what does Louvu do? He looks as if he's going to cover Grant Calcaterra on the out. Then he passes him off to the cornerback and jumps the inside route. Now, the issue I have with this is, if you're looking on the screen, I've paused it when Kenny Pickett's at the top of his drop. Frankie Louvu is clearly cutting back inside. Like, yes, he's baiting him, but he's hardly a magician here. Like, Kenny Pickett should see this. He has completely stopped his feet. So what Pickett needs to do here is stop, doesn't throw the ball, turns immediately to his left, and throws it to Saquon Barkley in the flat on a check down. This is a pretty straightforward play. You read one side. If it's not open, you get to your check down. The problem with these quick routes is it's really hard to go backside. It's almost like a pick a side concept. So it's not my favorite concept. And I think you could argue, and Shane would definitely argue, that this is the problem with running so much quick game, is that teams know it's coming. Frankie Louvu definitely seems to have a beat on this one. And he steps right in front. And it's a pretty straightforward interception. I mean, that's about as easy as it comes. That's definitely a flaw with the offense, but also a flaw with Pickett in general. And what's weird about that play is I'm sure many of you thought, we don't really see Jalen Hurts make that kind of mistake, like, ever. Which is quite impressive, actually, when you think about how often the Eagles run quick game. I'll show you another good. Now, I'm going to call this a good, but it's more of an AJ Brown good. One thing I did like about Kellen Moore's game plan was that he didn't just like check everything down. He let Kenny Pickett throw down the field a couple of times. So after Saquon Barkley's massive run, they go play action and chuck it deep, which I think is good because Washington are obviously going to be concerned about the run game. They actually pull an offensive lineman. I am the biggest fan of pulling an offensive lineman in play action for obvious reasons. Look at the linebackers. They see a pulling guard and they are told to get downhill. So I think this is actually a flag and it doesn't get called. But one of the Washington linebackers flies downhill and then clearly tugs Grant Calcaterra. And how this is not called as holding, I'm not sure. The Eagles run like a flood or like a 3-level stretch play, whatever you want to call it, with a short route, an intermediate route, and a deep route. And Pickett launches it deep to AJ Brown. The issue I have on this one is that Pickett's late. So AJ Brown is open immediately. Back foot is hit there, and I want the ball out. He takes a little extra hitch. QB school guys know JT O'Sullivan talks about this hitch all the time. It's a very minor little hitch, but what it essentially does is by the time that AJ Brown sort of gets thrown this ball, he's already nearly 30 yards away from Pickett. Pickett has not got the arm to get the ball there. But luckily for him, AJ Brown turns around and makes a fantastic catch. I'm not going to spotlight AJ Brown this week, by the way, but he was phenomenal. And if Washington goes into a game in a few weeks where we meet them again in the playoffs, and Washington decide to stick Marshawn Lattimore on AJ Brown one-on-one all game, please do it. Please. Because honestly, AJ Brown, he was open all game. There was very, very few times that Lattimore actually won that battle. And even when Lattimore did win that battle, one in the red zone, I thought it was pretty clear pass interference. Let's go for a few bad ones to Pickett as well. This is what I mean about Pickett trying to be Superman and thinking he's Patrick Mahomes. I'll pause that for a second. Shake commenting, if that's Jalen, do you think it's a TD? Funny I said that, Shake, because I went back and forth on this myself. I'm not sure. Because he's running like a corner route and not a straight go, he'd have to turn upfield when he catches it. But knowing AJ Brown is absolutely not impossible. It could have been a huge TD if the ball was put out in front of AJ and he managed to accelerate past Marshawn Lattimore. So potentially it could have been. This is my least favorite play of the game. So it's third down, and the Eagles are running basically like a high-low concept here. So they've got Devontae Smith running a clear-out route from the slot, and then almost on the other side, but you can read this like in one go. Devontae Smith does exactly what he's supposed to do. He clears out the deep safeties. So Devontae is taken out free on this play. And then the Eagles have a high-low concept with AJ Brown and I believe it's Grant Calcaterra here. Now, I think the throw to AJ Brown is open if Pickett hits his back foot and throws it right there. But I also appreciate it's a tough throw. So what he could just do, this is third and long, by the way, is he could just set his feet, wait till that linebacker drops into it, and just check it down to Calcaterra. You can take a 5-6 yard gain. You maybe have to punt. You maybe get a chance to go for it. Instead, he does this. He doesn't step up in the pocket. He just starts running. Like, we talk about Jalen Hurts bailing from pockets. There is no one there. The Eagles have got Lane Johnson one-on-one. We know that's going well. Jordan Mailata one-on-one. And Jordan Mailata has shoved the defensive end about 15 yards upfield. And then they've got two double teams. They've got Kenny Gainwell and Mekhi Becton. He's not winning that battle. Then they've got Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata and that might be Juergens and Dickerson. They're not winning that battle. Like, he's got all day. He could sit there. He could wait for something to open up here. He could step up. He has got absolutely all day. And he just runs to his right. And Lane Johnson must be thinking, what on earth are you doing? Because Lane Johnson's actually got this shock very well protected. So it wasn't not Pickett's finest moment. And I'll show you one other real negative that I didn't like with Pickett in this game. Ball placement was shaky. He sort of knew where to go with the ball, but he didn't often go where he wanted it to. So I actually thought Kellen Moore called a pretty good game, and I thought the Eagles had some wide open receivers. They're running play action here, and AJ Brown is going to come all the way across the formation, and Devontae Smith is going to almost run the other way, almost like a deeper mesh, I guess, like two crossing routes, like a classic post over concept. And AJ Brown is once again, guess what? Wide open. Washington defensive backs are nowhere near him. I think this is meant to be like a dash concept, which I broke down in the past, which is where the QB takes a snap and runs, or Pickett's just rolling to his right for no reason. But either way, it sort of means he gets a little bit messed up because he runs to his right. But AJ Brown is so open here. This ball has to be completed. Like, you can't not complete that in this at this level. He's got 5 yards of separation, or maybe that's exaggeration, 3 yards of separation. That's the kind of play you can't have. And if there was an argument to give Tanner McKee some reps this week, that would be the argument, that play, because that is wide open. That's a really easy read for a QB. I'm not sure what I do this week if Hurts doesn't go. I think I might play Pickett, but have McKee very, very ready to go, shall we say. Right, before I get to my final point, firstly, I'm going to have a quick drink. God, talking for a long time. And secondly, I'll get to some comments. Let's have a look. Who we got in the chat? Ben Gunter. Hello, Ben. Merry Christmas Eve. Indeed, to you as well. Comment here saying, did anyone from the NFL talk about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being ejected? If anyone watching has the answer, this is the benefit of being live, please feel free to stick it in the chat. No idea is the answer. It appears it was something he said. I might talk about him later on, but I don't believe unless someone can come out. Shake saying, I remember watching that play. I was burning. Yeah, me too, Shake. That was a bad miss. Ben Gunter again. Who's the emergency QB with Hurts out? I have no idea. The Eagles have a fourth QB. See, I'm one of those weirdos who spends my life obsessing over the sport, but doesn't care about things like third QBs or fourth QBs. I literally haven't got a clue. I'm sure they have someone on the practice squad or something. If anyone knows, once again, let me and Ben know in the chat. And another comment here from Matt. Pickett was actually fine, etc. Didn't Tanner outplay him in the summer. He's 6'6", can see wide open 11. Hate to be reactionary, but yes, every single beat reporter said that Tanner McKee outplayed him in the summer. I think the hard thing is that when you give up a draft pick for someone, you've got to be certain that he's better. So if Nick Sirianni picks him and Kellen Moore picks him and he sucks, you have to walk into Howie Roseman's office on Monday and be like, yeah, you know that guy you traded like a mid-round pick for that we didn't play when we started the 7th round or undrafted, whatever McKee was. I might give them both a chance in practice this week and then make a decision later on in the week. It is a tricky one. I don't hate Pickett as much as others, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great. When you get 5 turnovers and only score that few points, then I know 30 looks a lot, but they scored a lot in the first quarter. I think 12 points in the final 3, despite the Eagles getting a lot of turnovers as well. Well, I've got my third and final point for this week, and I've just titled it Mistakes. The Eagles made too many mistakes on offense to win, and I'll count mistakes as drop passes. We know the A.J. Brown drop. We know the Saquon Barkley drop, and obviously the Devontae Smith drop, but also just some mistakes in general. I count mistake as some of their play calling, so running with 12 personnel, but also some of the Kellen Moore trick plays as well. So I'll go to the Wildcat play. Chat, try to help me out here, guys. There are some of you watching. Can someone explain why they've run this play? So let me give you my perspective on it. If you're going to run a fake pass with a running back, right? If you're going to run a pass with a running back, you need the defense to think it's going to be a run, right? So you run a toss play, and then Saquon Barkley throws it, and you hope to get lucky. What the Eagles do is they put Kenny Pickett out wide. Now, why do you go Wildcat? Why do you put your QB out wide? Well, because what do opposing teams need to do? They need to cover him. So the Eagles end up 3 over 3 because you have to mark Kenny Pickett. You can't just leave him alone, can you? What that does is it means you basically get an extra box in a line of scrimmage. Because if you imagine an extra man in a line of scrimmage, if you imagine that Kenny Pickett is standing next to Saquon Barkley here, then one of these 3 defenders is probably in the box. So why do you go Wildcat? Is to make the running game easier. There's nothing about going Wildcat that makes it easier to throw the ball here. You don't have to snap it to Saquon Barkley for him to throw the ball. You just snap it to the QB and then let him throw the ball. So Saquon runs to the right, but the defense, I think, knows, like, they're already thinking, well, this could easily be a pass. So I don't really think any of them are really committing. He's not fully committing. These two aren't fully committing. If you're watching on YouTube or live, the guy covering Devontae Smith is still covering Devontae Smith. He's not charging out there. The other thing I'd want to see is I want to see Devontae Smith maybe sell the block a little bit more. He sort of runs up as if he's blocking him, but it's not a great sell here, and Saquon has to put it down. But I just don't get the design. Like, if anyone could explain to me why you'd go to Wildcat and then throw it, I would love to know. Why would you not just have Pickett next to him here, throw a toss to Saquon and have Saquon throw it? I'm all for more trick plays. Look at the lines. Look at what Ben Johnson does. Like, trick plays are fine. Do some cool stuff. Like, I'm totally fine with having Saquon Barkley throw a pass, but I don't know why you go Wildcat to do it. So I'm just going to count that as a mistake. I got no idea what the Eagles are doing there. I'll show you 2 final mistakes, and then I'm going to get to the defense. So Pickett takes a bad sack here, and this is a huge pass protection error, and I would love to know who is calling the pass protection on these plays, whether it is Cam Jurgens or whether it is Kenny Pickett. But Washington have 6 on the line of scrimmage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Eagles have 5 offensive linemen and 1 running back. Therefore, if he's going to run a route, him being Saquon Barkley, you could be 6 versus 5. You'd have to be a mathematician to realize that you are short. So this happens. Saquon Barkley runs a route. Kenny Pickett has no idea, apparently, that this guy's going to blitz. Like, he is absolutely clueless, even though he should have counted 6'5". And the concept they're running is the one that they've scored a touchdown on of late. I've seen some criticism about the Eagles running the same stuff. I hate to break it to those people, but this is wide open again. So A.J. Brown is wide open. Devontae Smith is definitely not, but A.J. Brown is wide open. And it would have been a touchdown probably, or at least a first down. But Kenny Pickett just can't throw it because he's flattened, because they're 6'5". All they have to do here is leave Saquon to block this edge defender, and this is a touchdown, or at least a first down. It's that easy. So whether this is a Jurgens issue, a Pickett issue, an offensive design issue, I'm going to call it a Pickett issue, but it's another mistake, and mistakes stop this offense. It wasn't that they couldn't move the ball. It wasn't everything was bad. It was that they made some really costly errors. This is not a case of the defense being good. This is a case of you shooting yourself in the foot. And of course, there's nothing else like shooting yourself in the foot like this one here. The Eagles love running Devontae Smith on option routes. They run one perfectly here. Devontae Smith gets himself isolated. He is wide open, literally wide open. He completely destroys the Washington defensive back. You can't be more open. The ball hits him right in the middle of the hands, and he just drops it. You can criticize Moore. You can criticize Pickett. You can criticize anyone. What can you do? If you're watching the video, by the way, look at some of the reactions of the Eagles players if you want to know how bad it was. AJ Brown is just absolutely furious. Like, he's not saying anything nice to Devontae Smith for a few seconds. At the bottom of the screen, you get Calcaterra and Saquon. Saquon literally on the floor, head in hands. Calcaterra, head in hands. Saquon knows what that feels like. He's done it this year. And then the offensive lineman, Kenny Pickett as well. None of them can believe it. You know it's not going well when that happens. So anyway, that was the offensive chat. And if I remove this, I'll come back up on the screen. I am indeed. Got a few comments. So before I get over to the defense, firstly, I'm going to take a drink because speaking for half an hour straight with a dodgy throat is not fun. So what comments have we got? We've got a few comments coming in about CJ GJ from Matt talking about how that basically it looked like the ref talked to CJ. Opposite of 49ers vibes because Big Don helped get CJ GJ off. I bet he said something bad. Yeah, I would guess for him to get kicked off, it wasn't good. Jake saying, I'd rather run straight up the gut to trust the best offensive line. Yeah, that was talking about the Wildcat play. Matt again saying maybe we overcomplicate it with the Wildcat. Kellen trying to be Ben Johnson. Yep, I think Kellen Moore has also run a few trick plays. And you know what? I'm fine with a trick play. That one was just really, really poorly planned. Who'd up again on Twitter? Washington was run blitzing to stop the run. Maybe Moore thought they would not cover the tight end. Yeah, possibly. They run blitzed a lot. A lot of stunts, a lot of aggressive edges crashing. And then Kajela, last of all, feels like this was a game where anything that could go wrong did. Yeah, maybe not everything, but a hell of a lot has seemed to go wrong in this one. Right, any other questions about the offense? Feel free to stick them in the chat now. And if not, I'm going to get straight on to the defensive side of the ball. Just going to sort my screen out, and then we will rock on the defensive side. Just realised I'm drinking without being on mute like always, so apologies if you saw me just smashing down some ginger tea to get me through the rest of this episode. We've got one more comment before we move on. King Dammy wants the overall temperature check on Kellen Moore this season. Jesus, King Dammy, give me a nice, easy solo question, why don't you? That's the $1 million question. I don't know is the honest answer. The problem is because Stoutland does so much of the run stuff, I'm hesitant to give Moore a lot of credit. I think the good motion's been built in. We've seen some under center stuff. The play against the blitz has been dramatically better. I'd give him like a 7 out of 10. Let's play a fun game where those of you watching stick in the chat what you think. I'd give him like 7 out of 10, B- type vibes. Like the way I'd phrase it is you're not going to fire him, but I don't think he's getting a head coaching job. Is that a fair summary? I think the flaws, the quick game, the too many comeback routes, the trick plays we saw this week going wrong, I think are still there, but I think his strengths are pretty good still. I think most of the design is pretty good of the offense. Sometimes it's a bit basic on third down. Sometimes the Eagles offense is too simplistic. It's really tricky. There's also the added difficulty of how much is Hurts can't run certain stuff. Like Hurts doesn't want to exactly be like a full field progression read passer, so you have to narrow stuff down ever so slightly. Matt chiming in B-, but not bad enough to try someone else. Yeah, Herb mentions how much he hates coaching and inconsistency. Yeah, I agree. That's basically what I said, isn't it? Where I wouldn't fire him, but I don't think he'll be a head coach. Shake saying similarly. I think he'll be back next year. I don't see a team taking a punt on him. And King Dammy replying, your ideas match mine. I'd be fine if he stayed, but I'm not losing sleep if he leaves. Yeah, I'd be annoyed if he leaves purely because of the fact that Hurts would have to learn something else again. And I'm sort of fed up of Hurts having to deal with new offensive coordinators. Right, let's move on. Let's get into the most bizarre defensive match you will ever see. The Eagles had 5 turnovers and gave up 5 passing touchdowns. What the hell is that all about? I want to talk about some of the good and some of the bad. I'm going to start with the biggest story of the game. 2 words, point 3. Oh, sorry, my first point on defense, I should say, will be route distribution. I talk about this every week. Route distribution basically is the life and blood of this Eagles defense. So if I get my screen up, let's see if this works again. If for some reason you can't see my film thread, please let me know, but hopefully you all can. So route distribution, I talk about it every week. I should probably give a little example of what I mean. A lot of Fangio's match zone coverages are about teaching techniques. So you expect to be +1 in match zone. If there's a trio of receivers, you expect to at least have 4 defenders. If there's 2, you expect to have 3. And what that means is you have to distribute the routes depending on what the offense runs. And if you do it correctly, you can basically cover anything, which I think is pretty cool. But it means that every single player has to be in sync. You have to know if they run X, Y, Z, we need to do this. If they run an in and an out, we need to do this. And it's incredibly complex. Compare that to Jim Schwartz. Imagine you're a cornerback. Right, there's your guy. Cover him. Simple. Man coverage. Easy. You got deep. You got single high safety, so play outside leverage. All right, sweet. Like, there are some very easy things, and the Eagles is not easy. And their route distribution is normally exceptional. Of late, it's been as good as it can possibly get. And Fangio is the god of teaching route distribution. In this game, it all went wrong. And you know what? I give huge credit to Cliff Kingsbury and this Washington offense. They ran so many good designs to test the Eagles. So I think this was the first touchdown of the game. Washington's lined up in trips, or 3 receivers to one side. A little bit surprisingly, the Eagles aren't +1 here. They end up, I think it's because they rush 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is why. They end up 3 over 3. So it comes down to how you distribute the routes. What Washington do is they fake like a flat screen. So the inside receiver runs to the flat. And then the 2 receivers almost fake as if they're blocking and then run upfield. Now, the way this should be read is Darius Slay should take the outside receiver as he does. I believe that Cooper DeJean and Jonny Johnson here have to swap. So Cooper DeJean is in the middle, but he has to take the inside receiver. And then Jonny Johnson needs to take the middle receiver because of how they run these routes. You don't want Jonty having to go all the way out to the flat. However, Jonty seems to think the screen is coming. So he starts running to the flat. This guy fakes as if he's going to block him, the middle receiver. Long story short, Jonty is just nowhere to be seen. And it's wide open. And if you watch to the very end, Cooper DeJean and Jonny Johnson apparently had a very, very long discussion after this one. I might be being mean to Chauncey here, but I'm going to credit the rookie and say it's a mistake by Chauncey because Cooper DeJean is barely ever wrong when it comes to route distribution. He is exceptionally good when it comes to Fangio's match zone rules. You can accept a mistake. You don't want to see it, but you know what? Match zone is hard. This stuff is difficult. If everyone could do it, everyone would. But unfortunately, there was more than one. And some of the others were worse because that one, you could argue, right, it's a fake screen, whatever. But this one's another one. And this is the problem with the Fangio defense, I think, is that, and I think it's a legitimate problem. You guys know I love Vic Fangio. Like, I'm a huge Fangio guy. I think this is, on its day, the best form of defense to run in the NFL. But the Eagles have a backup in there, Tristan McCollum. This time, the Eagles play 4 over 3, which makes more sense. So there's 3 Washington receivers and 4 Eagles defensive backs. So these 4 have to find a way to distribute the routes amongst themselves. You get a very similar concept, actually. You get one guy running to the flat, this and Cooper DeJean takes him, just like in the last play he does. So he passes off his receiver and he takes the guy in the flat. Simple. Then that leaves you basically 3 on 2. Now, McCollum should basically have anything almost vertical here. Slay will probably take outside and Dean will probably take inside. This is where it gets tricky. I think there are 2 things that you could argue here. Long story short, the guy running the out is not matched. He is wide open. I think it's easy to blame McCollum here, and I think I understand why. I think McCollum is looking at this guy, and McCollum should get outside. I think you can also argue that Darius Slay could pass off this interior receiver to the linebacker and then get back outside, but it's really hard to, once you've basically come inside, to then drop back out. That's asking a lot, and the ball could still be thrown over his head. So I think this is McCollum at fault here. I think what's worse about this play as well is the Eagles are running tricks coverage. So tricks means that the opposite side safety is helping out against 3 receivers. So you actually end up 5 over 3, which means there is no way for McCollum There's no reason for McCollum to be here on the inside. He really should be getting outside because anything on the inside is going to run into the opposite safety anyway, sorry. So this is a really bad mistake by McCollum. I think it's by McCollum. Even if it's not, it's another example of the Eagles struggling with route distribution. And I put this in my Bleeding Green article today. It's very easy just to say, well, it's a backup, so what do you expect? Unfortunately, that's not really good enough. Like, if you're running the Fangio defense, you're running the Fangio defense. So your backup's got to be able to run it as well. You can't just say, oh, we had a backup safety, therefore it's okay. Because no, if you've got a backup safety and you can't do this stuff, then find another backup safety or just run more man coverage, run standard drop zone. Like there are other alternatives. You don't have to run match zone all of the time. So that's 2 touchdowns where the Eagles have struggled with distribution. And if you thought 2 wasn't enough, I raise a third. A third issue with route distribution. Got a couple of comments here, by the way, about Hudak coming back in saying he also agrees it's probably not GJ's fault because he was the best slot before he came to Philly. And Greenback is disagreeing with me, which is fair. I always like a discussion. A backup is a backup. You are bang on. A backup is a backup. I expect them to make errors. At the end of the day, there's only one guy in the entire secondary who's a backup. If you can't match routes because you've got one backup in your secondary, then you're in trouble. Like, you've got to be able to do it. And if you can't do it, you've got to find another backup who maybe has other weaknesses but can distribute routes. And to be fair to McCollum, it was one error. It was one error in route distribution. Let's end with a final touchdown. Once again, this is 3 touchdowns for those of you counting at home. 3 passing touchdowns where Washington break the Eagles' match zone rules. So we love Vic, but Cliff Kingsbury had his number in this one. This is a really, really good design by Washington. So they're 3-by-2. They got 2 out to the right, which means the Eagles play 3-over-2, which is what you would expect. Then you have an outside receiver very, very far outside, which means the Eagles will line up 1-on-1, which means the Eagles are 3-over-2 in the sort of middle as well. The first thing Washington does really well here is they switch their receivers at the line of scrimmage. So when we say a switch, we mean the outside guys becomes inside, the inside becomes outside. You run it immediately post-snap. So the defense have to change their rules on the fly. Again, a good thing to do against a match zone defense. Now, what this does is you get Zach Bourne against a receiver, which, although Zach Bourne's amazing, is a win for the offense. Now, and once again, we go back to match zone rules. Normally, vertical, deep safety, Zach Bourne inside, and Cooper DeJean outside. So what do? They make one receiver run an inside route, and Cooper DeJean has outside leverage, so he's going to come open. And then they have a vertical route as well. And what they are hoping is that either Bourne or possibly Blankenship are going to bite on this inside dig route, and then they're going to throw the vertical route. That is exactly what happens. And credit to Daniels because he sees this early. If you look here, if you're watching, Zach Bourne has eyes on the inside route. So does Reed Blankenship. So all 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, end up going directly almost down towards the in route, which, by the way, is also open. So you can see why they had to do it. That leaves no one on the vertical route. This is really good by Washington. This is really, really good. This is a really good route concept. And I might go to a bit of a controversial point here is that maybe Fangio, when you're getting wrecked by these kind of route distributions in the red zone, maybe mix it up. Maybe play some standard man coverage. I know you don't want to play man against Jaden Daniels, but play cover 1 robber. Have just straight up man coverage here with a deep safety and a middle hole defender to watch Jaden Daniels if he scrambles. You don't have to run match zone all of the time. I get it. When match zone is good, it's great. But the Eagles were beat. Like, these 3 touchdowns weren't flukes, guys. They probably beat the Eagles' match zone rules. And you could argue one of them had a backup. But you know what? This is Zach Bourne, Cooper DeJean, and Reed Blankenship. 2 on 3, and they lose. The play earlier on was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Cooper DeJean, and Darius Slay. 3 on 3, and they lost. Yes, McCollum was at fault for 1, but that's 1 of 3 touchdowns that were all to do with the Eagles' route distribution. So that was point number 1. Point number 1 was about route distribution. Before I get to my 2 and 3, let's get some comments in. Matt says, if Fangio is confident, Tristan will get better with more reps. No choice but to trust. I agree with you. The one part of me that's like debating whether I agree fully with you is the fact that I like Sidney Brown. But Sidney Brown's also very, very untested in route distribution. Shake saying McCollum had a shocker of a tackle. Yeah, we're going to get to that, Shake. Sadly, we will. Greenbacker, we love CJ's tone, but he's a liability in coverage. For some reason, Vic loves McCollum, even though he missed the open field tackle. Yeah, does Vic love McCollum, or does he just think he's better than Sidney Brown? I guess that's what he does. You're right. CJ is a liability in coverage this year, even though he's very good in coverage. He has been a liability this year. I do agree with you. And Who'd Up saying it's Sirianni's fault. If backups play sloppy football, that means they don't get enough reps in practice. Yeah, fair point. Fair point. There's so much of this stuff that we don't see on a weekly basis. But yeah, the Eagles backups struggled a little bit in this game. Right, let's get into point 2 of the defense. God, this is where I normally get a break. I do my point when I say, Shane, over to you. And you get a point. Oh, Dancing Darling. What a legend of a comment. The reason why is because I'm going to talk about this now. So you basically gave me a talking point. So Dancing Darling says, I'm here late. Did we mention how special teams was horrible and gave Washington amazing field position? And then King Dammy also made my day because I'm going to talk about this next. He said, how did the pass rush look? I barely noticed Chuck Harris when Sweat went down. Yeah, Chuck Harris did basically nothing in his 7 snaps. King Dammy, I'm going to get to your point in a second, and Dancing Darling, to answer your question as well. Yeah, special teams was a disaster. I haven't mentioned it. The Eagles gave up horrendous field position consistently. I don't know what to say, really, about why they didn't kick the ball out the end zone, whether they couldn't because of the weather. Maybe there was a reason. I really don't know. But either way, yeah, special teams did make a big difference in this one. Just to give you an idea of where the Washington started each of their drives in this game, the Philadelphia 43, the Washington 22, the Washington 33, Washington 37, Washington 39, Washington 35, Washington 43. That means if the Eagles had booted the ball out of the end zone, they'd have started on the 30 every drive. That'd have been better than all but one of the starts of drives. So, yeah. Right, let's get into some of the good. King Dammy, I will touch on your comment here because I thought the Eagles pass rush was good early on. I thought Fangio in particular was really good early on. Don't want to just be negative here. So let's get into one of the good stuff. I thought the Eagles defense came out on fire. I really, really did. First part of the game, I'm a huge fan of. I thought the Eagles were really good in their defensive line assignments, in the way they rushed the quarterback as a whole. They used alignment of players. Sorry, that's what I mean, alignment, not assignments. I thought their alignment was really good. I thought the use of personnel was really good. So the Eagles lined up with 5 men on the line of scrimmage here. And what this means is that Zach Baldwin's going to get blocked by the running back. Nolan Smith is one-on-one with a tackle. But Jalen Carter, very selflessly, doesn't try and get upfield here. He tries to shove the guard almost in the center to the right. What this means is Nolan Smith has the most huge amount of space to rush the tackle. And he makes him look silly. Like, shout out Nolan Smith, playing well. Playing really well. He makes him look silly. He beats the tackle. He forces the incompletion. That was just one example of the Eagles winning with their pass rush. They ran quite a few times. Like, here's another really, really good one. This one's probably my favorite of the bunch. There's nothing more I love than sending 4 and essentially getting a free rusher. The Eagles look like they're showing pressure from the right-hand side here with Sweat and Bourne standing right behind him. They're actually going to bring the Kobe Dean, who is lined up all the way over here. Dean is not showing this at all. He looks like he's helping out in coverage. He doesn't give anything away here. And if you look post-snap, Jen Daniels takes a snap, Sweat and Bourne drop. So you end up 4 over 3 here. Washington end up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offensive linemen blocking free, which means by the time they sort themselves out, the Kobe Dean is wide open. Jen Daniels has to get rid of this ball quickly. Darius Slay does a great job breaking on that pass, and we are half a yard away from a pick six because he is close. Again, really good defense by the Eagles, really good play call by Fangio. They were really, really winning early on. They weren't just winning in the pass game. Their run defense was exceptional. So here's Jordan Davis on 4th and 1. I think Josh Sweat is underrated in how well he plays this play. So Josh Sweat is responsible for the mesh point. So he has to make sure that Jaden Daniels doesn't keep it. So he does just enough to make Jaden Daniels keep it, but then he still manages to come crashing down on the edge and help out. However, this play is made by Mr. Jordan Davis. Double teamed at the point of attack, 4th and 1. This is why we drafted this guy. He anchors, he shrugs the guard off, he pushes the center off. There's a little bit of collision when the center falls over. It's always good when the 2 guys blocking you are on the floor. And he doesn't just make the tackle, he pushes the guy backwards with the help of Josh Sweat and also with the help of Milton Williams and Jalen Carter. I really did think the Eagles were good early on. Kind of other good plays I really liked. Jalen Carter forcing the fumble is outrageous. I think special defensive linemen and special defensive players in general, I'll count Myles Garrett as one, TJ Watt as another at times. You know, the top. They're just making an elite play, it seems like, every week. Jalen Carter is entering that level. He knows the guard is pulling here. It's pretty cool. They put this out in the broadcast. Pre-snap, he sees it coming. Seeing something and knowing you're going to get the center one-on-one is one thing. Actually doing something about it is next level. He blows past the center. He then strikes the ball with a really good punch out of the running back's hand. And that is a special play, man. Special player and a special play. He wasn't the only one. I think I spoiled my little comment there. I was going to say, I don't think Jalen Carter is the only Eagles defender who is that good that he makes elite plays every week. Guys, I think Zach Bourne is in that category. Zach Bourne's going to get paid, guys, like a top 5 linebacker, maybe top 3, maybe top 1 if he cashes in at the right time. He's that good, and you can't hate it. He deserves it. Like, this is the fumble he causes. He played the run really well in this game. He was good in pass coverage, except for the final play of the game. And then he just comes crashing down on a screen, beats Zach Ertz's block. Not the first time Zach Ertz has got something wrong in the blocking assignment department there. And he doesn't just make the tackle, he sends the ball flying out as well. Weird Eagles defensive performance. I think first quarter they were exceptional, and I don't fear the Washington offense if we meet again in the playoffs. However, I'm a little bit worried about how quickly it went downhill, because it got pretty tiresome quickly, and Washington knew exactly how to run concepts that targeted the Eagles' route distribution. My final point for my first ever solo podcast is going to not be about Fangio's route distribution. The biggest issue in this game was just individual errors on defense. The Eagles made too many individual individual mistakes. And I know I've already pointed out a few, like this one to Jonty Gardner-Johnson and McCollum, but I'm not talking route distribution here. I'm talking just straight up mistakes. So we're going to start with Quinion Mitchell, and I feel like Darius Slay is getting away with it a little bit. I didn't clip up Darius Slay's mistake. Darius Slay got beat early on in the drive, and then Quinion does this. This is actually a really good play by Fangio. He blitzes 5, but he gets a free rusher because Washington blows the protection again because they don't know who's coming out of Dean or Bourne. They end up getting a total free rusher. Like, if you're watching the video, if Quinion Mitchell did this week 1, I guarantee you would be chanting bust in the stands. This is bad. Like, I don't really get what he's doing. So he's playing with inside leverage, and he must think there's going to be a post, or he's expecting like a deep dig or an in route or a crosser. He just sort of stands there and lets Terry McLaurin just run deep. Like, it's a good throw, but I don't really know what to say about this play. It's just a disaster of a play. Like, it's really, really poorly played by Quinion. Now, Quinion's a stud. He's been a star all year. We're not going to lose any sleep over it, but it's on a day when your route distribution is not going very well. What you could also do with is your superstar cornerbacks not giving up two deep shots on one drive in one-on-one coverage to give up a 98-yard drive. That's not good. There were other mistakes. That wasn't the only error. I'll go back to Shake's comment from earlier. McCollum had a shocker of a tackle on 4th and 11. This one's bad, guys. So let me find the play first of all. God, when did this play happen? Here we go. Play 9 on my thread. It's basically 4th and 11. The Eagles send 4. I saw some criticism saying the Eagles didn't have a spy and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but when you play zone match, look how many defenders you get looking at the quarterback anyway. I've also seen some criticism of the Eagles' rush lane integrity, and if Shane was here, I promise you he'd be moaning about this. Again, I agree, but you know what? Am I too concerned about rush lane integrity on 4th and 11? If the QB scrambles, am I losing any sleep over it? Probably not. If you pause it here, Jaden Daniels is about, I don't know, someone do maths, 7 yards away from the first down, and the Eagles have Zach Bourne, Cooper DeJean, and Tristan McCollum, all within 5 yards of him. I think you would take that before the snap. Cooper DeJean is blocked, so he can do nothing. So you have Bourne and McCollum. Bourne is on the outsides, and Bourne is to the left, McCollum is to the right. You just have to, a little bit of instincts here, know that you can force him inside if you're McCollum. What you can't do is can't overrun the play to Zach Bourne's side. That's a real bad error. What you also can't do is take it so far, you actually tackle Zach Bourne. I hate to break it to everyone, but tackling your own linebacker on 4th and 11 is not a very good strategy. And it's going to be even worse. Like, this could have turned into disaster territory because they miss a tackle here. And you know what? Credit Reed Blankenship, because look at where this run starts. Reed's at the deep safety, and he actually runs all the way, and he ends up making a really important touchdown-saving tackle. But this is a disaster. Like, when you talk about mistakes, this is a bad one because this should have been the end of the game, really, on 4th and 11. And I'll finish with my final play. I put this in the category of errors, but I could have done a category of the last drive of the game. I've already got a play. I'm not going to go into every play specifically because I know Shane released an All-22 video on the Patreon this week on this specifically. If you've liked the show, for those of you watching and you like talking to me and Shane or other like-minded Eagles fans, firstly, join the Patreon, $3 to $5 a month, and support us. $5 gets you Shane's All-22 video. I will be doing more All-22 video content in the off-season as well, stuff like free agents and draft stuff. Also, just support us because this stuff takes time, and Shane is very nice, and Shane does not say how much hard work goes into the show. I'll be able to tell if Shane is listening to this podcast 56 minutes in if he mentions that I gave him a compliment live on the air. But yeah, the Patreon, you could also just join the Discord and talk to us. There are loads of us already in the Discord in the chat, like GGN10. Discord's awesome. There's the conversations every day, draft stuff, fantasy stuff, NFL stuff, general stuff. You can support the show. And yeah, I won't do too much on the final drive this week. I was going to do it as one of my points, but Shane did a whole All-22 video review. So if you want that whole review, get in the Patreon and you will get it the second you join. This was a criticism I had on the last drive. And you know what? I haven't actually watched Shane's video myself. So I'd be interested to know. Some of you may have actually watched it, like GGN10. If you have already, I don't even know if Shane's posted it. Let me know if he had a similar idea to me. I thought they were too passive. So I did clip up the plays, as in I typed up what happened on every single one. Again, I won't go into video footage. But basically, this was the final drive. It was an easy completion, light box, easy first down run. Simple curl, 10 yards, easy. Daniel's 12-yard run, 7 yards short, easy throw, 5-yard run on 3rd and 1. It was too easy. This play here, guys, this is 3rd and 1. We've seen the Eagles stop teams on 3rd and 1. We saw the Eagles stop them on 4th and 1 earlier on. If you can stop them here and they run the ball, they can't spike it. That clock is going to tick, or they're going to have to waste a timeout. The Eagles have got 4 defensive linemen, massively spread out, and 1 linebacker. Like, they're not trying to stop the run here. They're giving up a first down. Like, let's be honest. They are giving up the first down. Zach Moore ends up coming up and making the play. He's not even in the screen at the start of the play. They're just giving the first down up. And there's nothing horrendous with this play. I just use this play as an example of how I think the Eagles were too passive on the final drive. They left themselves a position where a 20 or whatever yard touchdown pass could have resulted in a defeat, and it did. You could argue, they didn't play it too passively, don't give up a touchdown at the end. But I would argue that a 12-yard touchdown pass with 11 seconds or whatever is not impossible, and the Eagles should have done more to prevent them from getting into that position. So there you have it. I've still managed to go an hour on my lonesome. A couple of comments to finish off. Ben Gunter, good lord, there was 10 chances to win this game. Yeah, there was. They were the better team. Sheikh, as a rugby league fan, definitely from the UK, I'm guessing Sheikh, because cricket comments, test match special comments, and now rugby league comments. We've actually got loads of English and Europeans in the Discord, which is pretty cool. So if you are not there, Sheikh, maybe we'll come join. We'll set up a UK sports chat. I'll make Shane create a cricket server. He said he hates bad tackling. I know it's a different sport. You're from Australia. Nice. Jordan Mailata. Fan club, I would imagine. That's going to be pretty cool having an Australian playing for the Eagles. I haven't butchered that, by the way. He is Australian, right? He's not New Zealand. That must be like a dodgy thing to say. So I'm praying he's Australian now. Ben Gunn saying Fangio going to have them running sprint. And I like this comment, Ben and Matt saying similar things. They're weirdly either too passive or too aggressive. They really are, man. Fangio is just like, either screw it, I hate this game, I'm sending 5 or 6 on the final drive. I think the answer is, Ben, I think it's basically, if there is no time on the clock, then Fangio is passive. If there's time on the clock, he's aggressive because he wants to give up a touchdown earlier on. Sheikh coming again saying he is Aussie. Thank goodness. That must be pretty cool being an Aussie fan, an Aussie Eagles fan. Matt saying it's a problem, that passive soft coverage at the end of every game besides Pittsburgh. And again, Pittsburgh, good example. There were 2 minutes left. So I think Fangio was like, you know what? If you score, screw it. So I'm going aggressive. It seems to be passive at the end. I do agree. I think Fangio is still, at the end of the day, a little bit safety first. And I'll end it here with King Dammy chiming in saying, great job going solo. Right. The thing I need to now hope, guys, is that number one, can I end the stream? Will the outro video music play? And then will it save? If it doesn't save to a podcast, shout out to you guys watching, because it's never, ever going to be heard or seen anywhere. I know Shane is driving, so he will get this up soon. Shane saying Eagles fan before he was drafted. That is awesome. Yeah, that is cool. I need an English. I need a British Eagles player one day. We will get someone from England into the Eagles one day, or at least playing a little bit. Right, I'm going to call it there, guys. So shout out to those of you in the chat. You made this doable, because otherwise I hate feeling like I'm talking to myself. So the chat has got me through today. So shout out to you guys in the chat. You have made this cool. Loads of comments of Ajay. Of course, Ajay was a legend because of that. And Ajay's accent was just so funny as well. Watching him talk, he just stood out. Shout out to you guys in the chat. I could not have done this solo, honestly, because I need people to at least make it sound like I know what I'm saying. So let's get a few goodbye comments up. Matt, Merry Christmas, Jonny. Thank you for all you do. You're the best on either side of the ocean. Thank you, my friend. You are clearly a smart football fan as well, so enjoy talking ball with you. Defense was gassed, suit up. Yeah, chasing mobile QBs, they were gassed indeed. Guys like Carter and Smith played 60 snaps each. I do agree with you. Right, we'll be back next week. We are going to have a show. I'm actually traveling next week. I'm up in York, going north with my lovely wife for New Year. So shout out to my lovely wife, because I'm bringing in this wonderful mic. And I will be doing a show next week in the hotel room, assuming the Wi-Fi is good. So I've convinced her that I can't let Shane go solo again, because he's gone solo twice already this year. I will be recording. That'll be an experience. I don't know how many shows we'll have until then. I will not be able to do a post-game this week, but I know Shane and Dives and the guys will have one post-game. So yeah, that has been it for me for a lovely solo show. Merry Christmas, Eagles fans. Have a great new year. I will speak to you guys next week when it possibly is 2025. It's possibly 24 depending if we record Tuesday or Wednesday. If it's Tuesday, then it'll be 2024. If it's Wednesday, it will be 2025. So all that's left to do is just do the usual. Like, subscribe, 5-star reviews. You know the stuff. The most important thing for me is to go and hit up the Patreon if you're not already. I promise you the Discord is awesome. I comment when I'm watching the game live, so does Shane. We have loads of back and forth about plays. If you want just to talk Eagles, I don't really talk much on Twitter anymore. So please, if you can support the show over on there, do chime in. Right, let's hope we hear some lovely outro music now. And for my sake, I hope this records or Shane will not be best pleased. I will catch you guys next week on the Shane page.